How is it going, everyone? It's Caleb Lumberty here, and today we are going to be talking about a Super Nintendo game. We are going to be talking about Alien vs. Predator on the Super Nintendo. Now, I love Aliens vs. Predator. I love the movies. That about covers it. I love the movies. I love the first movie, and I do like the second movie, even though it's not as good. I've never really read any of the comic books. I've read some of the Alien comic book, and I've also read a little bit of the Predator comic book, but I've never read the Alien vs. Predator comic books, and I should probably fix that. But I believe this game here is actually based off that comic book. Now, the game here is a beat-em-up, and I do enjoy beat-em-ups. I'm just usually not very good at them, which, I mean, you could say that about pretty much any game I play, honestly. The only games I end up being decent at are usually kart racing games, but when it comes to, like, beat-em-ups, nah, I'm not very good at these games usually. When it comes to, like, think of Streets of Rage 2, for example, I can get to the final level, but I can't beat the final level in, like, one sitting, so that's kind of how I am, you know? And I'm talking about using continues as well, so I'm just not very good at beat-em-ups, but I do like them. And Aliens vs. Predator, I just thought it was a cool idea, you know, being able to play as a Predator and go and take down a bunch of aliens and just beat up a bunch of alien bosses and stuff. It sounded like a cool idea on paper, and when I picked this game up, I was pretty excited about it, but it's not a very good game, if I'm being honest, and that's not just because I'm bad at beat-em-ups, because I'm bad at Streets of Rage 2. However, I still really enjoy it, and I still think that Streets of Rage 2 is a fantastic video game. I'm bad at this game, but it's also just not that great in general. A lot of this game is just a bit too simplistic for my liking. One thing that I really noticed is that you have a few different weapons in this game, but the main thing that you're probably going to be wanting to use is the Predator's like charging rifle or charging beam that's on his shoulder. Because if you use that shoulder-mounted cannon and you kind of just spam it, you can really just get pretty far in the game without having to worry too much. Now, that being said, once you get to the boss fights, it doesn't work as well, and the bosses are what really will tear you up. But when it comes to just fighting the normal enemies, I should say, just spamming that, shoulder-mounted cannon, it usually takes care of all of the enemies up until you get to the boss. So, not a huge fan of how easy just the regular enemies are. The bosses, however, are the complete opposite, and they will absolutely destroy you. So, the bosses are really difficult in this game. And they're not very well designed, if I'm being honest, either. Especially the final boss fight, when you finally go against the Alien Queen. Because she can just, like, grab you, and she just, like, sucks your health all the way down to the bottom of, like, your health bar. And you don't even have really a good chance to fight back. And I don't really get that. I feel like the majority of the boss fights I actually won, I get through just by pure luck, which is not a great feeling if I'm being honest. And to be completely transparent, I did use save states to beat this game. Without save states, there's no way I would have been able to see the end of this game and see every level. Because going through the bosses, I would have gotten stuck probably on the third level's boss over and over and over again, because that boss was difficult. It's just like a hulking alien that can just absolutely pummel you. So if it wasn't for save states, probably wouldn't be able to get past the third stage, if I'm being honest. So that's one thing I do like about the modern, modern era of gaming, is that I can at least use save states and see the end of this game. But if you don't use save states, good luck seeing the end of this game, if I'm being honest. Maybe you're just that good of a gamer, but I am not that good of a gamer. I'm a terrible gamer, so I have to resort to using them. But this game overall, even though the boss fights are ridiculously hard, it does have some cool ideas. Like I said, you do play as the Predator. You start off on Earth, and you're saving you're not trying to purposely save humans, but, by destroying the aliens, you are helping out humanity in a way. And it's really cool because other than just your, shoulder-mounted cannon, you can, of course, punch the aliens and beat them up like you would in any beat-em-up game. But you also have some weapons drops that are pretty cool. You can pick up the discs that you see in Predator 2, and you can throw those at the enemy. And you can also just pick up the spears and throw those at the enemy, and the spears do massive damage. Those are like my favorite weapon to pick up. And then, of course, you can also pick up health. You can pick up this little, like, green vials, and that will give your Predator health back. Or you can actually, I don't know why they did this. I wish they would have just kept it with the vials. Sometimes the aliens will drop what looks like chicken, and you can just pick it up and eat it, and your character will get full health. And I'm not sure why they did that. Like, why did you make it so some vials are health? Why didn't you just make, like, bigger vials for health? Why did you make, the other health pickups chicken. I don't get it. Whatever, it is what it is. But I just thought that was kind of weird. The actual environments and everything, they look okay. They're not great looking, but the actual settings themselves and the ideas of where you're going, I think, is pretty cool. The fact that you actually start fighting on like a launch pad of a spaceship, then you go into space, and there's these like asteroids you can see flying through the windows and stuff. Like, it's pretty cool on some of these stages. And then when you get to the actual alien homeworld and you're fighting the aliens there, like, all that stuff it's cool ideas. Honestly, even the alien enemies look really cool in this game. Not just the bosses. The bosses do look cool, and I'll get to that. But the actual enemy, just like, basic troops, look really cool. I like the different colors that they use for the sprites and everything. I think they all look really good. And when you get to the actual boss fights, I really liked seeing all the different weird stuff that they came up with for the aliens. Because, like, one of the very first bosses that you fight is an alien that can, like, roll up into a ball and roll at you. And I thought that was a really cool one. My favorite alien boss fight, though, was this one that could fly. He was like a flying enemy. There's a lot of cool designs for things. Even the actual Predator himself looks pretty good. That's one thing I will say. Like, the environments may not look the best. They just kind of look okay. But the actual sprites themselves of the aliens and stuff, those look really good. So, I don't know. Maybe they should have spent a little bit more time on the actual background and stuff and trying to make that look better. Some areas look better than other areas, I will say. Like, the alien homeworld looks freaking fantastic. I love the way that looks. But the biggest problem with this game, though, is if you are playing this game and you are not very good at beat-em-ups, like, I'm not. When I played this without using save states, and I did try it out without using save states, I could only get to the 3rd level. I probably would never see anything past it. And it's just... It also is just really plain until you get to the boss fights in terms of the actual gameplay. The gameplay just doesn't really have anything that makes you want to pick us up and keep playing and keep trying to get through the levels. If I didn't have save states, I probably wouldn't care about going and trying over and over and over again to see the end of this game, because it just doesn't have an addicting formula here. The gameplay is just kind of bland. The actual combat, while there's cool ideas, again, this game is just a bunch of cool ideas that, unfortunately, when they're put together, they just don't work that well, unfortunately. It really needed more combat, I think. I think that there's a lot of issues with the AI being very generic, too. Just a lot of the just normal troops coming at you and attacking you. They're just really generic, really boring, and they don't have many different attacks. I feel like they should have done more on that end of things, because I feel like I'm just beating the same aliens up over and over and over again, and some of them are just a little bit quicker and stuff like that. So they definitely needed more enemy types when it comes to just the plain troops and stuff like that. And they definitely needed to focus on making the boss fights just, I think, more fair. There's just too many boss fights that seem that they're just purely luck-based, and I'm not a fan of that either. When it comes to this game, I like it because it's Aliens vs. Predator, and I like the ideas that it had for an Alien vs. Predator game, but I can admit that this really is not a good video game overall. I'm not really sure who this video game is for other than Alien vs. Predator fans. If you're not a fan of Aliens vs. Predator, I don't really think that I could recommend this to you. Maybe you are just like a beat-em-up completionist and you want every beat-em-up game to ever exist, then maybe you'd want this. But in terms of just like the regular player, I can't really recommend this game, unfortunately. But if you are a fan of Aliens vs. Predator and you want to see some really cool ideas for the universe and to see some really cool things put into a video game, I think that if you're an AVP fan, you're probably going to enjoy this. You'll at least enjoy the setting, and you'll enjoy the different, type of aliens that you're fighting and stuff like that. And you'll just enjoy being a Predator also. Being the Predator and like using your shoulder cannon and throwing spears and stuff and just beating the crap out of aliens with your bare fists. Like, that's fun. That's a cool idea, even though it's not, perfect by any means, But I don't think an AVP fan necessarily cares. I think, we just want to have cool ideas and just be in the universe of AVP. So that's what I would say when it comes to this game. If you're an AVP fan, maybe check it out. I will say, one of the cool thing about this game, the music is actually pretty decent, but there is another ability that the Predator has that I wanted to bring up, and that is, other than just the regular blast coming out of his shoulder cannon, you can actually charge it, and if you charge it for long enough, and you max out the charge on it, it will basically just send beams down from the sky and just torch everything around the Predator, and it will hurt you as well. It will take some of your health away as well if you fully charge the weapon. But it does look pretty cool. I'll give them that. Good job making that look cool. But yeah, that's my review for Aliens vs. Predator. It's not something I can recommend to most gamers if you're looking for an actually good game. But for AVP fans, I think you'll at least enjoy the setting and seeing the cool different aliens and stuff like that. I think you'll enjoy seeing all the weird ideas they had just being put into a video game where you can enjoy it. So that's what I have to say when it comes to this game. Unfortunately, this game is not cheap, though. To keep that in mind, this game is usually $30+. So yeah, it's not a very cheap game. So you better really like Aliens vs. Predator. I'll talk to you in the next video. You have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.